Right, welcome everyone. Today is our practice day, and it'll be really nice to just sit and integrate and really connect with these practices that we've been talking about over the last few weeks. And of course, practicing together for its own sake is wonderful. But also, I'm hoping that you can do these meditations in such a way that you're aware of where you're comfortable and where you're not sure what to do next, so that you can ask questions, because I really want you to be able to do these by yourself after this particular module. So follow along, but also kind of in the back of your mind, check this is familiar. I could do this on my own, or some simplified version of this. I could do it on my own if I wanted to. And after each meditation, we'll just do a little check-in and see how it went. Is that going to work for everybody? And then at the very end is the optional test. Okay, and if you all want to leave for that, that is totally fine. Or if you all want to stay for that, that's totally fine. That's mostly just for those who want the certificate. Or if you're just curious, you can take it just for curiosity too. That's fine. Yeah.
Will you be doing the test as well?
Me?
Yes.
Well, I set the test, so I mean, I already know the answers
Oh,
because I set them.
you might want an extra certificate though.
Okay, but thanks. Thanks. All right, so the first one we're going to do is the clarity of mind meditation, and we'll launch it with the normal prayers that you're used to, for immeasurable thoughts, refuge in bodhicitta, and then into the meditation. You can launch your meditation with whatever prayer or mantra or personalized motivation works for you, but I really, really encourage you to consider a Mahayana motivation. So a motivation that says, may this practice, however seemingly simple, may it lead to the development of my fullest potential, so that I can be of greatest benefit to all sentient beings. So words to that effect, whether they're words straight from the Refuge in Bodhicitta prayer or they're words that you cultivate yourself, I really encourage you to make sure to think about more than yourself, more than today. And if you can do this biggest reason of bodhicitta, so much the better. So we'll do it that way. And the clarity of mind meditation, you're mainly spotlighting the main primary consciousness, right? Of the six primary consciousnesses, the main mental consciousness is what you're spotlighting, using various mental factors to hold your attention there. And you don't really need to know that's what the mechanisms are, but just to kind of weave in the content with the practice. That's what we're up to with this one. So in trying to find the primary mental consciousness, you first have to let the sensory primary consciousnesses kind of settle down, which means at first you need to bring your awareness to some simple sensory experience like the body and get yourself grounded, get yourself settled, and really start to let go of the surface distractions, the things you might hear in the house or outside, the things that are going on for you in your own body, and then gradually getting more and more subtle. And the essence of this meditation is that metaphor or that analogy of being more with the sky-like reflective blue aspect of the mind, less with the clouds, the weather, the movement. Yeah, so don't be literal and think that you're trying to visualize a sky and clouds. It's a metaphor, yeah. Okay. So sometimes I put those pictures on the screen in case you've gotten so distracted that you need something to tune into, but don't take it literally. It's a metaphor. Okay. So we'll start with the motivation and then we'll go right into the meditation. Were there any questions before we start? Sorry, I should check for that particular one. Do you feel familiar enough or ready to just dive in? Okay, you look ready. Let's go. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from desire for friends and hatred for enemies. Just let your mind connect with those mental factors that are in harmony: love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. You can repeat that prayer in your mind, really letting it anchor. And then refuge in bodhicitta. Sangye chudon sogi chunam la janchu badu dani kapsuchi dagi chunyan ki pe sonam ki drola penche sangye drupasho sangye chudon sogi chunam la janchu badu dani kapsuchi Dagi chunyan gi pe sonam gi rola penjia sange drupasho sange chudon sogi chunam la janchu badu dani kapsuchi dagi chunyan gi pe sonam gi rola penjia sange drupasho. And letting that motivation stabilize. And informed or imbued by that positive motivation, now just let your focus settle into the awareness of your body and scan from the crown of your head down to the tip of your toes, allowing any tension to release, encouraging balance. And keep letting your focus move around the different areas of the body, bringing a compassionate gaze, being a compassionate witness to your own physical experience. You could even imagine that something relaxing happens to your body, like water being poured over you that was exactly the right temperature. But just be in the body. And bring a sense of strength and stability to your back without it becoming tense. And bring a sense of softness and receptivity to the front of your body. Nothing clenched or held in. And now we'll shift our focus to the breath for just a couple of minutes to allow surface distractions to settle. And if for any reason the focus on the breath doesn't seem to stabilize you, you can choose a different sensation, like the feeling at the soles of your feet. But just create a very simple focus and keep coming back to it. Any distractions that arise, You simply choose not to feed them. Let them arise and dissolve, and keep coming back to your simple focus. The breath, or whatever sensation feels safe and simple. Now, very gradually, shift your focus to awareness of the thoughts before you go more subtle. Let yourself start with watching the thoughts or the mental weather. See if you can observe without engaging. And so release the focus on the breath and shift. Watch the thoughts without agreeing or disagreeing with them, without feeding them or suppressing them. Thoughts moving and changing like clouds. They might seem stuck or permanent until you look at them. And then you notice the shifts moment to moment. Aware of thought without being lost in thought. See if you can stay in that place of non-reactivity, aware, but not chasing. Now, very gradually, turn your emphasis to the main mind as opposed to observation of the mental factors, as if you shifted from watching the clouds to noticing the clear blue sky. So shift that emphasis to the subtler, unmoving, but still changing moment to moment, main primary consciousness. Reflects like a mirror. The sky-like nature of your mind, radiant, clear, reflective, connecting with that. You're aware of the mental weather, but not obsessed with it. As if your focus was an airplane going up through the clouds, above all of that. Up where the air is clear. Spacious, not spacey. Focused, without sleep. And whether your mental weather is intriguing or disturbing or boring, you're simply choosing not to emphasize that aspect of your experience. Emphasize the natural clarity that is also always there. Sky, not the clouds. Now gradually shift your focus back to your body. Simply aware of your physical sensations. And then dedicate. Janchu Sencho Rinpoche, Ma Ke Panam Ke Gyuji, Ke Panyam Pame Payam, Gone Gonju Pawa Sho, Tony Dawa Rinpoche, Ma Ke Panam Ke Gyuji, Ke Panyam Pame Payam, Gone Gonju Pawa Sho. And relaxing your attention. Okay. So for a meditation like that, where there's kind of two main stages, where you're first really letting yourself be aware of the weather, be aware of the mental factors, be aware of the movement, and then you're trying to consciously shift emphasis to that more still characteristic or function of the mind that's reflective, the main primary consciousness. When you're doing this by yourself, it might be useful to have a timer. There's tons of apps, but I would use the very simplest one possible. Don't get a big fancy meditation app for something like this. Just get a simple timer. I think there's even one called Simple Timer, um, or the watch function or whatever. And Insight Timer has one that you can set the time to have a bell in the middle of your meditation. So you set it for 20 minutes and it'll ring at 10, and that'll be your cue to shift. Use those tools if they're useful for you, but if you feel confident and you've got time that day, just kind of do it organically. And when you're doing a practice like this, it's interesting to feel, how do you feel after? Yeah, whether you were certain or uncertain during the meditation, whether you felt focused or vague during the meditation, asking yourself, how do I feel after? That can really help you have confidence and curiosity to do it again. Because even very distracted meditations, you often feel quite clearer afterwards, even if during the meditation you were worried if you were doing it right, or you know. Um, so what questions do you have about that one? What thoughts? Yeah, Ladan.
Sorry.
Yeah, Ladan, then Larissa.
Yeah. When we say, when I hear main mind, when you said in this meditation in particular, when we shift from the thoughts to the main, like to the sky.
Yeah, primary consciousness.
For me, when you say don't get spacey, stay spacious, it's happened to me sometimes that I imagine, or like something comes to my mind, like a very bright light, and there's a I'm concentrate, but I'm kind of I love this. I think something very positive, very bright, and I'm kind of going towards it. I don't know if that means that it's spacious or spacey, I don't know. And then I come back to thoughts because somehow I say it's too much, it's too like out of control. So I come back to the thoughts and I said, I don't know, I have to go to see the doctor. I have to, and then I coming back to the. So would you please explain like the difference between space, spaciousness and spaciness?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you want to be, very respectful to yourself and your own experiences and the interesting impressions that can come into your mind, at the same time as being disciplined. And that line is very difficult for all of us because intriguing things will arise when you sit still. It's fascinating how many interesting things can happen just sitting still in a meditation posture with your channels a lot sort of better supported than they normally are. And then being still and not trying to get the mind agitated or activated, you can have troubling things happen. You can have fascinating things happen. You can have imprints from previous lives ripen. You can have bliss. And on one part of your mind, say, that's interesting. Anyway,
Mhm.
and have the discipline of keep coming back to the meditation you intended. Because what can happen is the ego is so clever, it will find mystical, magical ways to distract you if it can't give
Mhm.
you troubling sensorial things to distract you. It will do really anything it can to keep you from progress, even things that look magical or mystical or spiritual.
Mhm.
And those things also could be an interesting sign of work you've done in past lives. But if it's happening to you rather than from you, don't give it much mind. You don't
Mhm.
have control over it. You can't repeat it. You don't know what it's for. You don't have an intention for it. It's just interesting. Come back to the meditation. Yeah, don't indulge. It's just interesting. And coming back. Similarly, people can have really big trauma things come up, old memories. You can have weird physical pains that you didn't have before you started sitting. You can have spontaneous blissful feelings. And similarly, just go, huh, interesting. Anyway, back to the meditation. As you progress in your meditation practice, you'll be able to use your body and mind differently, more intentionally. But when it feels like it's just a spontaneous arising, please don't give it too much energy because you can go down a whole rabbit hole and forget that the point of this is to develop your mind to be of benefit to others, not to get lost in some mystical experience that actually can make you farther away from empathy. And
Mhm.
maybe you've met folks like this in spiritual communities where they have something going on and they've got some very interesting energy around them and
Yeah.
they're into something, but
Yeah.
do they have kindness? Do they have ethics? Are
Yeah.
they stable? You know, we have to start from there. Yeah.
And when you say,
So
sorry.
spacey, not spacious, Ladan. It's very much like if you were very relaxed and you were sitting in the countryside on an old-fashioned porch in a rocking chair, and you were just rocking very slowly, looking at the landscape, but not needing to find anything. That kind of clarity
Mhm.
where
Mhm.
your
Yeah.
thoughts are quiet and maybe the thoughts with words have even kind of disappeared or faded or they come and go.
Mhm. Yeah.
Just kind of like nice day. Yeah, spacious.
Yeah.
Spacey is like, I don't know, you're on the train and there's school children coming home from school and they're loud and they're chaotic and you're sort of blocking them out.
Mhm.
We're
Mhm.
reading a magazine in a half disassociated way. And if someone said, what are you reading? You wouldn't even be able to tell them because you're not even really there.
Yeah.
Spacey. Yeah. Yeah. So you
Yes.
need to be sharp and bright and clear and
Mhm. Mhm.
but it doesn't mean noisy. It doesn't mean words. But it's
Yeah.
that type of alertness you have when you're both relaxed and awake. So think of some memory in your life where you've been very awake and alert, but not busy in there.
Mhm.
Yeah. And lean into that aspect of the function of your mind. So after the meditation, you shouldn't feel like this close to sleep. If you do, you probably just need more sleep. Yeah. So don't overthink it, like get more sleep. Yeah. So the
But
discipline
when
is
you
not
say
gonna help.
come back to your meditation, is it correct for me that I had this strategy that I come back to them like thoughts for a little bit? I
If
watch the
that helps.
thoughts and
If
then
it helps. Yeah, if that helps. If you can go straight back to spacious clarity, do that. If you're a bit too all over the place, just come back to that observational mind that's just watching the clouds,
Mhm.
watching the mental weather, watching the mental factors, and then gradually turn to watching the primary consciousness. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Larissa, what was yours?
Yeah, thank you. This is a question you probably have answered in the last few sessions, but is breathing, the breath, and say a headache, are they both expressions of one of the main consciousnesses, like the primary consciousnesses, the main minds, because they're coming from my body, or
Hmm.
this is just something that occurred to me while I was meditating, and I thought if I find the answer, it'll help me, but if there is no answer, that's okay too.
I mean, remember that the primary consciousnesses, the ones that are sensorial, they're still mental. They just use the physical body, but they still exist even before your body is able to do those things, like when you're a fetus. Or, and it also is able to have these impressions even when you're sleeping. So, you can have visual experiences while you're sleeping, but your eyeballs are not, using the same kind of faculties that they do when you're out and about. So physical experiences have a relationship to mental experiences and vice versa, definitely, but the mental experience is always subtler. So this was the chart of all of that. Yeah. So the main minds or primary consciousnesses, depending on your translator, there are these main six. And then the states of mind, the mental factors, are in these categories. The ones that are always there, the ones that help you with meditation or focus, the positive ones, the negative ones, and the ones that could be either, depending on your motivation. So all of it is consciousness. Yeah, it's not like there's one thing over here, one thing over there, like it looks on the chart. It's all consciousness, but it's functions of consciousness that are happening simultaneously. So in meditation, you might be really starting here with your primary consciousness, listening to the meditation leader, but gradually you're really trying to get to primary mental consciousness, the sixth one, and kind of really allowing the surface stuff to subside, or pretending that it is, because that can actually move you in the right direction. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, any other questions before we do another one? Okay, so we're going to do now continuity of the mind. And continuity of the mind is mainly to help you understand the possibility of past and future lives. It's also to help you understand the relationship between your present experience and how the past informed it. Because sometimes when we're really lacking mindfulness or we're really distracted, it can feel like our moods come out of nowhere from nothing, or that they come specifically from the person or situation in front of us, and we oversimplify. And when we oversimplify like that, we can feel more of a victim of circumstance. We feel a lot less control. We can also feel like life is kind of random, and that can be quite unsettling. So a continuity of the mind meditation is related to impermanence, but it's really to help you understand the connection between the past, present, and future, most explicitly to help reinforce that feeling that actually past lives are possible and that you're creating your future with how you respond right now. So it kind of gives you that real-time lived example of that. And so for this one, we can start with the Shakyamuni Buddha mantra as our motivation. This is another way of launching your session. And we did this as its own meditation the other day, but today we'll just do it very briefly as a way of kind of getting ourselves going into the meditation. So if you want to just take a minute and get back to your body and get back to your posture and see if there's anything you need to adjust, anything that got tired the last time, or anything that kind of felt like the circulation was being cut off, just do a little micro adjustment. If you want to take a few intentional breaths just to get your body back into a settled place. And then take a minute and visualize in the space in front, Shakyamuni Buddha, seated on a lion throne, lotus, sun, and full moon, made of radiant, transparent golden light, wearing the robes of a monastic, smiling gently at you, his eyes half open, holding you in his compassionate gaze, and simultaneously all sentient beings. And reviving our motivation, we'll use his mantra. Jaya Jaya Om Mune Mune Maha Munae Soha. 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 And continue the mantra under your breath with the idea of purifying light from Shakyamuni Buddha, filling and cleansing, soothing and settling, ripening the seeds of your own enlightenment. Tayatal Muni Muni Ma Muni Eso. Ayatao Muni Muni Ma Muni So. And Shakyamuni Buddha dissolves into light and absorbs into you, blessing your body, speech, and mind. And feel that your motivation to be of benefit to all has been strengthened and deepened. And now shifting your mind, looking at how is your mind in this moment? How would you describe your mood to yourself? Generally good, generally bad, generally neutral, just right now, objectively like a scientist. Describe yourself to yourself. As you characterize your own current experience, compare that to this morning when you first woke up and the different activities you've done this morning and this afternoon before getting here today. Just do a very gentle comparison like a scientist. How you are now, how you were earlier today. What is the same? What is different? As you compare how you are now with how you were this morning and throughout the day up till this point, see if you can notice the continuity. How one thing led to another, led to another. Different things influencing your experience. Some things important, some things unimportant. And so even though you feel a little different than you did this morning, notice the relationship between now and then. There was a continuity of consciousness, each moment changing, influenced by the one before. And then taking today in kind of a snapshot of the general mood, the general experience. Compare that to how you've been this year so far. The different things that have happened this year so far that relate or don't relate to how you are right now. Thinking of New Year's and all that flowed from it. See if you can notice that continuity of one experience informing the next, informing the next. Whole days and weeks forgotten, certain hours very highlighted. Just explore a little bit the continuity from New Year's until now. Not getting lost in the story, staying somewhat objective. The mind being influenced by external things, but the way it was influenced related to the habits of that very mind. How it chose to frame certain events, what we chose to emphasize or de-emphasize. And so letting go of this moment in contrast to the year so far, keep going back. Looking at the continuity of consciousness. See if you can scan back the last 5 years. Ways you're the same, ways you're different. Just notice continuity. And that the things you don't remember doesn't mean they didn't happen. And the things you do remember are not more important from their own side. You gave them that branding because of your own past. And so just exploring with curiosity what strikes you about the last 5 years. And without any kind of harsh judgment, again asking what is the same, what is different between 5 years ago and now. One thing led to another, led to another, led to another. But what is the same? What is different? Now do a big leap. Do a big leap back into adolescence. Maybe somewhere between 13 and 17, wherever your mind wants to land. Try and find some classic characteristics of yourself at that time. What were you like? Objective and curious. Trying to remember. Who was I then? And asking once again, without judgment, how am I the same? How am I different? What links that person to this one? That child to this adult? Those moods to this one? How am I the same? How am I different? Be curious about what you remember. And be curious about what you don't remember, but logically you know happened. The countless ordinary days of your adolescence. Repetitive breakfasts. Common walks. Classic activities. Things you know happened, but you don't remember the details. Or you remember one time, but not all the times of a certain scene. So keep going further back into your childhood, into your infancy if you can. Who were you then? Who are you now? That tiny toddler you saw in pictures. This adult sitting here now. How are you related to them? What's the same? What's different? Few things remembered. So much unremembered. But you can be certain there was experience. You know logically time passed. So the fact you don't remember doesn't mean it didn't happen. That whole series of years, so long ago. And so it's easy to imagine that once you were in your birth mother's womb, and once you were only a few cells there and a consciousness. And before those few cells in your mother's womb, where were you? Who were you? You might have been in that bardo intermediate state between lives. And before then, someone else, a different name, maybe even a different species. But that continuity of consciousness was there, changing moment to moment, a continuum of moments influencing one another. Does it feel possible that that flow of experience from your childhood into the womb went even before that? Before these parents, before this body, before. Like with your life now, just because you don't remember doesn't mean it didn't happen. Just because you don't remember doesn't mean it didn't have an effect on ways you experience life even now. The habits you created and carry, the influences internally and externally. Just allow yourself to explore that possibility. Before this body, there was still this consciousness, embodied differently. As if in a different vehicle or different set of clothes. Maybe my mind is like a river, crossing from one country to another, changing names, changing landscapes, and still that continuity. So given all of that possibility and giving all of that memory, come back to how you are right now and ask, what do I want to take with me into the future? The future of this day, this month, the future of my future lives. What do I want to carry? What do I want to leave behind in this continuum of consciousness? What traits and habits serve me and my work to be of benefit to others? What brings joy to myself and others? Safety, kindness, wisdom, and what is outdated, what no longer serves this mind of mine. What habits of anger, habits of jealousy and pride, habits of attachment and ignorance, what do I want my future self to inherit? And through the energy of these thoughts, may we develop this mind to its utmost extent, enlightenment for the benefit of all living beings. And relax your attention. Okay. So there's a few different ways to do that one. There's the version that we did the first time that's in the handout that you were given. And then there's this way, which is very similar, but it's basically really getting yourself quite clear, how are you now? And then reach back, reach further back, reach even further back, reach even further back. And the way you notice the information, what you do with that information is important. You don't want to have the experience but miss the meaning, right? To quote the great poet. You want to have the experience and understand what it means. And part of it is to acknowledge the memory gaps just in this life and to ask, how much of my uncertainty about past lives comes from the fact that I don't remember them? And then you think, well, in this life, there's lots of things I don't remember, but I know they happened because here we are, right? You didn't just pop out of nowhere this morning. And how you are this morning, how you are this afternoon, how you are right now isn't random. Yeah, so there's parts that you remember about how this mood you're in right now came about. There's influences that you could point to, but there's lots of things you can't point to. Do you agree? Like there's things you can be like, oh, I slept well, or I didn't sleep well, I had a good breakfast, or I didn't have a good breakfast, I fought with my spouse, or I didn't fight with my spouse, my cat was annoying, my cat wasn't annoying, whatever, there's influences you can point to that had an influence on how your mood is today. But what made them influences? Why do we care about what we care about? Why do we frame what we frame? So it's something really interesting to explore, both in terms of how you see the self, but also how you see the continuum of consciousness, and really start to expand your idea that you have been around a long time, this continuity of consciousness. And sometimes it has learned its lessons well, and sometimes it has not. And sometimes you've had forward progress and depth and momentum on your spiritual path. And sometimes you've backslid and had lost years and lost lives where you really descended into some sort of chaos. And we don't want to assume that growth is linear. Yeah. Even thinking of this life, there might have been things that you knew as an adolescent and lived by very clearly that now you've forgotten. You know, think about the people in your life who are of the boomer generation, our blessed boomers who we love so much. Many of y'all were amazing, progressive, heart-centered activists who wanted to change the world and have world peace, and now are yuppies obsessed with consumerism. What happened? It was all going so well, right? You know, so not everyone, obviously, and probably not ones coming to Dharma centers, but you know, it's interesting to look at some of our assumptions about how growth happens, because it's not linear. It can be, but it's going to take a lot of discipline and intention for it to be linear and for it to have, you know, upward growth. So this continuity of consciousness meditation mainly is just to kind of open up this idea that how you are now is conditioned by the past, but not just the past you remember, and that the past is longer than perhaps we considered. So we take that information and ask, how do we build a future for this consciousness that's healthier, that's happier, that's more beneficial to others? Because it's going to just keep going. So we might as well organize it. Thoughts? This is a sort of meditation where you maybe don't need to do that often, whereas a clarity of mind meditation, I would recommend doing quite often. This one is more just kind of like to get you oriented in terms of fuel for your spiritual path if you're feeling like you backslid, or just kind of exploring the way the past influences the present, influences the future. So this is kind of more of an occasional practice, whereas a clarity of mind meditation might become more of a mainstay. Yeah, Leo, go ahead.
Yeah, I was having this practice and then felt like a kind of an insight, and I would like to share here. So it felt to me as if it was something like the movement of expansion and limitation in the perspective of humor and the actual point of view, like the way you see life, you know, because I felt that the more we expand, we end up with a conviction about something. And this conviction is really from an expanded point of view, you know, so it's actually nice and it works in your daily life, but it's still a conviction, so it limits your experience in some way. And then this keeps happening, you know, like you just expand and then you generate a conviction, and then that limits, and then you expand again, and then you go on. So yeah. This makes you navigate between positive states of minds and negative states of minds, and then going further, you start having virtuous states of mind and non-virtuous states of mind, and then involuntarily you generate attachment for the virtuous states of mind, and then aversion for the non-virtuous ones. And then that whole thing led me to think that if this is really this experience in life, you know, like if like liberation consists in being open to the good moments and the bad moments in life, transforming these experiences, you know. And then I thought about it, and I was like, sometimes I'm okay with this thought, sometimes I'm not okay, like it feels kind of difficult, but yeah, that was my experience.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that's really some solid, worldly insights. Yeah, that's useful. It's really useful. Sometimes it can be helpful to journal after a meditation like this, yeah, and just kind of keep some of the key aha moments. So that can be a nice thing. My own teacher, who is very traditional Tibetan Geshe in his 80s, often recommends having a notebook by your meditation cushion. It can help during the meditation if you get stuck and you can't let something go, to just quickly write it down, put it aside, and go back to your meditation. But also after the meditation, you might have really had some sparks that you don't want to lose. And so writing those down to keep them without getting limited by them. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Joe, and then we'll have a quick break and do some more.
I hope it's okay to share what I'm going to say. In 1997, I spontaneously had memories come to me from lives in other timelines. And what I've known since then is, and it made me think, when you said there are experiences you'll remember and some that you don't. Well, for me, I kind of worked out, I thought, why do I remember some of those lives, and what do they have in common? And the lesson is one that I think it's for me to work on throughout this current life, and it feels relevant to what I'm doing here right now in this moment. And it's about in the different lives I ended up regretting what I'd done in the lives, because what I'd done, I had aligned myself to something external. For example, in the army or the priesthood or something, and I knew inside that I had to stand in my own power. And I feel very vulnerable sharing what I'm about to share, but today is a very special day for me, especially when you said think back to 5 years ago. So 5 years ago, I had not my first spiritual initiation in this life, but the most powerful. It was terrifying, and then it ended with me realizing that I couldn't feel acceptance and love for myself by looking outside of myself, and by doing that, by realizing that, oh wow, but by learning to love and accept myself, then I could learn to love and accept other people. And I was given a new birthday, and it was the 4th of May. Two things happened, well, the same there and then. And I wasn't part of it at all, but I was aware at the time there was a big independence march. And again today, the 4th of May, a Saturday, again, an independence march in Scotland. And what I learned afterwards, I had all these experiences, but it was around the time that the few weeks that it lasted, the Buddha's birthday. I didn't know anything about the Buddha really, and also when the Buddha and the Christ meet. And when I joined this module, I wasn't aware that at the time that it would end, on the 4th of May. So I'm very grateful for all of this, and yes, I know what my path is, and I'm on it. I fall off it sometimes, but then that's because I'm still human. But I'm kinder to myself, and therefore I can be kinder to everybody else. But I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to be here, and especially today. So thank you.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us, Joe, really. Yeah. You know, it sounds like you know yourself, and it sounds like you know the things you want to bring into the future, whether it's the future of this life or future lives. It seems like that's very clear to you. And you know, for all of us, let's really, really think of those things that we keep coming back to, we keep knowing to be true, as well as those things that we keep regretting and keep, you know, stumbling in the same way again and again. It's not going to just naturally get better by hoping. We have to make some conscious effort. So recognizing it is the first thing. And as soon as you bring it up into, you know, into awareness, it becomes so much more powerful. So even just naming, this is how I want to live in this body, in this world at this time, but this is also how I want to condition this mind of mine. Yeah, this is what I want to keep. This is what's sacred, you know, whatever it is. It could be something as simple as just your tendency to patience or open-heartedness, or, you know, whatever it is, but it's like, that is sacred. So let yourself articulate those things and carry them. Let's do 5 minutes. Is that enough time for a bit of a stretch? And then we'll do a couple more meditations before the exam. So we'll do a couple more shorter meditations and see how those go. All right, so five minutes. Okay. Looks like most people are back. I'll just wait a second for everybody else. Any miscellaneous questions while we wait for the others? Okay. So, excuse me. So we'll do, let's do the loving kindness meditation together with the love versus attachment analysis. You can do these separately when you're by yourself, and probably good to do them separately because they can impact the mind in different ways. But when we're all here together and we can really use the group energy to keep us focused for longer, we may as well tie them together because they're related. So when you're doing an analytical meditation, like the love versus attachment meditation, what you're trying to do is to remain very stable with each point while allowing creativity. So if you're having an interesting thought about the point that I suggest, keep going along that trajectory. But if you have a random thought that's completely unrelated, but interesting, but virtuous, say not now. Not no, but not now. And keep yourself contained in the structure, because that's the way to really build depth. So it's not really saying you're suppressing all other thoughts. It's saying not now to other thoughts, and stay within the container so that you can build depth. So we'll do a brief love versus analysis, and then we'll pivot into just the straight loving kindness with equanimity and the light. So back into a posture that feels stable. And just check and see if you feel balanced. And once again, just be in the body, encouraging it to relax, but trying not to force anything. Just let that observation of the body bring its own relief. Just being that compassionate witness to your own physical experience. And this time, instead of scanning from top to bottom, try going from side to side, from left to right. So starting with the crown of your head, just gently scan across your forehead Imagining the brow unfurrows. And then from your left ear across to your right ear. Imagining your sinuses are clear, your eyes relaxed, gently closed, or open just a crack. And moving your focus down across your cheeks, left and right. Your mouth softening, your jaw unclenched. And keep doing that as you work your way down, left to right and left to right, all the way down your body. Imagining it coming into balance. All the way down. Side to side, all the way down until you get to your feet. As the body settles, revive your motivation. This time reviving it using the four immeasurable thoughts. And so start with love, thinking may all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. Compassion. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Joy. May all sentient beings never be separated from the happiness that is without suffering. Equanimity. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from hatred, attachment, and indifference. And may all of this intention carry with it a sense of personal responsibility. May I facilitate the awakening of others by actively engaging in my own awakening. May whatever insights I come to have a ripple effect, benefiting everyone around me and on to all. And so first, just using your intellectual mind, using your analysis and investigation, clarify the difference between attachment and love. Attachment sees the good, but exaggerates. Attachment sees the benefit, sees all of the happiness that comes from another person, but thinks that it comes from that other person in and of themselves, independently from their own side, as if being with that person injects us with happiness, when it's far more complicated than that. In fact, the happiness comes from our own mind. The other person is a condition. The situation is a condition. The object is a condition. And so attachment sees the good out of context. And it sees the good with an illusion of permanence and stability, and creates all sorts of expectations that are doomed to fail. Let yourself articulate what you understand attachment from a Buddhist perspective to be. Just intellectually. Sees the good or the pleasant as existing from its own side, and so seeks it, craves it, feels a need, objectifies. And then still just intellectually, what is love? From a Buddhist perspective, the wish for all sentient beings to have happiness and the causes of happiness. The causes of happiness being positive, beneficial actions that leave a mental seed on their mental continuum, which can then ripen as happiness when it meets conditions. So we want the causes for their happiness. We want the conditions for their happiness. Love just wants their happiness. Not with an agenda so that they give us something or repay it somehow or appreciate it explicitly. Just wishes their happiness and the causes of happiness. So before getting into the experience, just clarify the two. Describe attachment to yourself as you understand it so far. Describe love to yourself as you understand it so far. Just in words. And then move more subtly and ask yourself, what is the experience when attachment is up? What happens physically, verbally, mentally? What are you like when you're attached to someone or something, but particularly to someone, when you've decided they're the essential ingredient for your happiness? When you've given their interactions more significance than is actually needed? When you expect them to be their best version all the time, because that version is somehow what you need for happiness? What happens in your mind when you're fixated like this, grasping like this, expecting like this? What goes on in your body and your speech? Contrast that with what happens when there is love up, driving in your mind. What happens to your body, speech, and mind? What warmth, what stability, what contentment? Just let your mind move back and forth, comparing those two. What is the experience of each? See if you can really sharpen the edges of the distinction between the two. And let yourself land on this obvious conclusion that love is better, but also that attachment can look like love until it doesn't get what it wants. It can look like love until it's thwarted. And then right on its heels is anger. And you see the expectations and the entitlements and the objectifications that had nothing to do with love. And so deciding that love is how you want to live, now begin to visualize. Visualize in the space to your left, your mother, or your mother figure, whether she's living or dead, whether you have a good relationship with her or not. Try to see her there in the space and next to you on your left. And you know things about her life, things that maybe troubled her or were difficult. And whether she was skillful in managing her suffering or unskillful, even harmful in managing her suffering. Imagine that you say to her, "May you be well, may you be happy." And that love that you've clarified takes the form of warm golden light at your heart center and radiates, filling your whole body and spilling out to the left, bringing your mother peace wherever she is. And the light continues to the left, to all your female or feminine relatives. sisters and aunts, cousins and grandmothers, nieces and daughters, flooding the whole space to your left with light of your loving kindness. Filling that space evenly, not dependent on how much affinity or rapport you have with them as individuals. May all of you be well. May all of you be happy. Imagine them all relaxing, coming to more peace. And you shift your focus to the right side of you. And imagine seated there is your father or your father figure, whether living or dead, whether you had a good relationship with him or not. Imagine he's there. And think of some of the troubles of his life, some of the difficulties, the sufferings. What was hard for him? And whether he managed his suffering well or not, whether he inflicted harm because of his suffering or was skillful in managing it, and everything in between. Imagine you say to him, may you be well. May you be happy, wherever you are. And that loving kindness as your heart, in the form of golden light, continually filling you, radiating out still to the left, now radiating to the right, blanketing your father in your love. Imagine it bringing him peace. And the light continues out to your right, blanketing all of your male relatives or your masculine relatives, nephews and sons, grandfathers and uncles, cousins, brothers. The light of your loving kindness touching them evenly, regardless of your level of affinity or rapport with them. May you all be well. May you all be happy. And they all settle into peace. And you shift your focus to the space behind you. And imagine seated there is the person closest to you who's not related. Your best friend or your spouse. Imagine them seated there, whether they're still alive or not. Picture them there behind you, having your back the way they always want to, whether successfully or not. And think of some of the things you know to be difficult for that friend, that close one. Some of the hardships, some of the struggles. And whether they manage their suffering well or not, hurt others because of their suffering or not, and everything in between. Imagine saying to them, may you be well, may you be happy. This dear one. And the light of your love, going evenly left and right, now goes behind you, blanketing this close one, this dear one with light, bringing them peace. And the light continues behind you to all of your friends, all of the close ones of your life, out and out behind you. Each one becoming more content, more peaceful as the light of your love touches them. And then forward to the one hardest and all of those that hurt you. Send the light forward to the enemy or that one that feels so hard, that one you have so much aversion towards. Send the light forward to that difficult person and to everyone who has harmed you, flooding the space in front with your love. May you all be well. May you all be happy. All of these difficult people coming to more contentment, more peace. And you keep radiating out to all the strangers, all the different species, blanketing the world in your light. Imagining the world filled with this light. And imagine that light continues to radiate, but relax your visualization. Carrying that sense of connection, of warmth, of responsibility, of interconnection. And dedicate. Jantu Samcho Rinpoche Ma Ke Panam Ke Gyochi Ke Panyam Pa Me Payam Gone Gondu Pelwa Sho. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that is not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and okay. Thank you, everyone. So we'll have a 10-minute break and then we'll do the test. And the way we'll do the test is I'll put the test on share screen. And then what you'll do is you'll write your answers in the chat, but just send it to me. Don't send it to everybody. Does everyone feel comfortable how to do that? If you click the chat and then there's a little thing that says to everyone, you just scroll down and find me and just send it to me. Okay, so that's how we'll do the test, but I'll explain it again after the break. So let's take 10. And for those of you staying, Ben, thank you very much.
Venerable Yönten, is
Yes.
it okay to offer you a mandala before we take a break?
Sure, that's beautiful. Sure.
Okay. Hold on, let me see if I can share. Mm. Thanksgiving mandala. We'll do it in English. This ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. And we'll do the request for the Lama to remain long. May my vulnerable Yönten life be firm, her white divine action spread in the 10 directions. May the torch of the teachings of Lozang always remain, dispelling the darkness of all beings in the 3 realms. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamnayatayami. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for your beautiful practice. And see you in 10 minutes.